the chat feature as well. So just know that, even like private messages. So heads up on that. Welcome everybody. It's good to see your faces again. We are gonna have a little bit of a open house opportunity here in a second. I want to make sure that you all have a moment to maybe think about something you would like to say about DAB. No need to necessarily do that for each of us, but just think about if you might want to say a few things about your experience serving on DAB or what you like about being on DAB. So just a few minutes to start thinking about that. Let's take a look at the meeting minutes from August. Give you a few moments to review those. Do we have any comments on those meeting minutes? All right, could I get a motion to pass those pass the minutes?
Move.
Okay, Oswaldo, do I have a second? Looks like Ahmed is seconding the minutes. All in favor, please say aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Any opposed? Wonderful. Looks like the August meeting minutes pass. All right. So as I just mentioned a few moments ago, we're going to have a little mini open house. As part of the city's recruitment efforts, they've asked all the boards and commissions to hold some space at the top of their September meeting agendas to talk a little bit about what the purpose of our board is, what areas we've been focusing on and kind of envision for us to be working on next year, and then save some space to answer any questions that people might have who are tuning in. So we'll just jump right into that. I'll give a little bit of an overview and then folks can jump in as well if they would like to. So the Diversity Advisory Board advises the mayor, city council, and city staff on equity and inclusion strategies that strengthen connections between the diverse communities that live in Beaverton and with the city government. And our board is composed of 16 members. We have 13 regular members and 3 alternates. And this year our focus areas are place naming, business development and support, and election year civic engagement. And next year, you know, we set our goals and focus areas at the beginning of each year. So those aren't set in stone yet. That's usually something that we take a look at and decide on in our retreat that usually happens in January or February. But we kind of envision that we'll continue to do work on place naming, local business support, and potentially do a little bit more work on affordable housing. But again, those aren't set in stone. And also continue to monitor the city's progress on the diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. A little bit about that. So the DEI plan is informed by the Leading with Race study that was done in Washington County. And it includes 6 priority areas: public engagement, city practices, housing and livability, public safety, economic empowerment, and community building and inclusion. So that's a very quick, high-level overview of what the Diversity Advisory Board is and does. And I'd like to invite other people on the board to chime in a little bit if they would like to before we open up for questions.
should say so.
If no one, should I just say a few words? I want to just a little bit thank everyone for taking part in this. It's pretty important, especially in the times that we find ourselves in. I remember when we first started it, we had just starting to look at what to do, and we created a diversity task force to set things up. And it was really kind of interesting because at the time we were talking about that we had the most diverse population in the county with in Beaverton, and yet when we looked at the people on council, I mean, it wasn't represented. And we also recognized that there was a need to actually start going out and trying to see what we can do to be inclusive of everyone and how to do that. So that's what I saw as the main purpose or the main function to begin with. But you guys have done some amazing work. Again, as I mentioned before, the Leading with Race document, Alexis and played a big part in being part of and in bringing it to our city. So thank you for using that going forward. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with to do.
Thank you, Councilor Cate Arnold. And I think I saw Rehana wanted to say something.
I was just going to say one of the other main parts of the DAB committee is that the Beaverton Night Market, which was really fun this year. You know, we had a fun time hosting and organizing with the subcommittee, and it was wonderful to see so many businesses from diverse population represented. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to just put forward, that's one of the main things that DAB does to support diversity within the Beaverton community. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Yes, that's great. I didn't mention that at all. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Oh, Oswaldo.
Thank you. I think I agree. The work that the Diversity Advisory Board has done for the last 7 years has been fantastic. I think it's given us opportunities, particularly to people like myself who were not involved at all until I felt the need to participate for personal reasons. And it's been a great experience. And I think the little bit that I have been able to contribute with, I think it matters. I think it helps. And it's allowed me the opportunity to think a little bit beyond what it means to be part of the community, what it means to represent, and what it means to be one of the voices heard. And I think I'm making this my, I don't know, a personal goal to encourage everybody that is sitting right now at the Diversity Advisory Board. And if you have friends or people who know that had been members in the past and they're thinking about coming back to help, either at the DAB or at any other board, I would strongly encourage to look at other boards that need to diversify themselves, because I think that's our next step in this progression. If we all are able to insert ourselves in other boards in the city with the mayor, I think there is not going to be a need for a diversity advisory board, because then we all will be already immersed in everywhere, which is what we need to do. Because if we allow ourselves to think that the diversity advisory board is the only board where we are allowed to be heard, then we're making ourselves a disservice. We're segregating ourselves, and we cannot allow ourselves to do that. So let's think about that.
Thank you, Oswaldo. Anyone else? before we open up to questions, although I have a feeling we might not have any questions. Okay, do we have any questions, Alexis? I think that we already know all of the attendees, but are there any questions from anyone who's tuning in right now?
It looks like Kathryn has a question,
Yes.
I'm sorry, is it Kathryn?
Yeah, you can say Kathy.
Kathy, that's right, Kathy. I thought that wasn't quite right. Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, I'm wondering if the Diversity Advisory Board is invited to have members on city subcommittees, such as when the police are looking into using more mental health services. So are you represented in that search and decision making? That's my first question. And there's other ways. I know that there's some development planned down to Allen. Are you in that right now? Do you have voices? Does somebody have a voice for you in it right now? Okay, and my other question is, how are you reaching out to help people vote? And I guess I mean more than just a workshop. How else are you helping out? That's all. Thank you.
Hello,
Hi,
this is Manijeh. Hi.
Hi, Manijeh, go ahead.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi,
I'm just
Manijeh.
talking for, it's great to hear from you. Hello, everyone. Sorry, and then also for myself, I just, not as a representative of that, but I am advocating for voting, reaching out to whoever I talk to community members. I ask them, excuse me, I asked them if they already have registered or personally, I advocate for voting wherever I go, whoever I talk to. And that way, I don't know if as a DAB member, do anything regarding that.
Thanks, Manijeh. If folks don't mind, I'd like to try to take a stab at a couple of Kathy's questions. I'll piggyback off of Manijeh on the question about civic engagement. So the Diversity Advisory Board is a sponsor of the Fall Voters Forum this year. So that's one of the ways that we're getting engaged with civic engagement. And part of that is helping to inform the questions that are being asked of the candidates that are part of the Voters Forum, as well as helping to inform the candidate pool that was invited to participate in that forum as well. Your question about participation on city subcommittees. So from my understanding, and perhaps Alexis can chime in here after I speak, the general practice is that you only serve on one board or commission for the city at a time. However, as Diversity Advisory Board members, we are often invited to be a part of different kind of panels, if you will, or part of different conversation groups or circles. So for example, we have had a presence at several hiring panels for the city, and we have had 2 members recently serve on part of a community conversation circle with a consultant that was hired by the city of Beaverton, which I know Councilor Cate will be speaking to later, as well as our 2 board members who are part of that conversation circle. Anything else you'd like to add on that, Alexis, or anyone else?
I think you covered it well. The DAB, I would say, is one of the if there's a shorter list of boards that's invited to send representatives, DAB is usually at the top of that list. Specifically about the Allen Boulevard and development piece, I think that, as far as what I'm hearing, I think what that most fits into is the downtown equity strategy piece that's that staff presented at DAB about last meeting, and there hasn't yet been a call for community members to participate in that process, but my understanding is that there will be, and they're coming to DAB early and often, hoping to come early and often about that. I'm not aware of any committee around the policing piece that you asked about, but I imagine that, again, I would say that it has been city practice to, if there are members of boards and commissions invited, DAB is usually on that list. So I would hope so.
Thank you.
All right, were there any other questions for this portion of our agenda? Okay, great. Before we go to public comment, I'd like to take a quick timeout and have everyone say hi to Brandon. I know some of you might not have seen his face before. He has been serving in our military. So thank you so much for your service, Brandon, and it's so nice to have you back. And if you'd like to say something, introduce yourself briefly, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Culbertson. I work for the Beaverton School District as the Title VI AI coordinator, which is centered around working with Native families and students. So it's great to be here. I was fortunate to be part of DAB prior to getting deployed last year, and it's just great to be back in this space during this crazy time where we really have a good opportunity to move beyond performative actions and address, like, structural as well as societal inequities. So it's great to be here with you all, and I look forward to working with you on our future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And I would like to, ad-libbing here, I'd like to take another moment, because I didn't do so at the very beginning of our meeting today, to also recognize that we, especially in Oregon right now, are dealing with a lot of tough things. In addition to racial justice issues and the impacts of COVID on our communities, we also have wildfires raging throughout our beautiful home. And I know that takes a toll on a lot of people, emotionally, mentally, physically. I'm sure a lot of us know friends and family who have had to evacuate from different areas. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that and thank each of you for showing up here tonight, likely with, a lot of baggage on your minds and on your hearts. So thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it a lot. So with that, we'll move on to public comment. So is there anyone from the public who would like to say something in this space. Alexis, am I missing anyone? Are we good to go?
It doesn't look like it. Looks like we're good to keep moving.
Okay. All right. With that, we have cultural sharing from Shara tonight.
Hi, everyone. So for culture sharing, I remember when at February, Manijeh called me and she said, Shara, are you open to do a culture share together? Because we have the same New Year at March 21st. And I say, Manijeh, I have too many stuff to celebrate in September, so I'm gonna just keep it for September. I was imagining myself coming to the meeting with a big pot of dolmas and some handmade stuff and Kurdish dessert. But coronavirus didn't let me. So I decided to apply for Welcoming Week grant. And thanks to Alexis, I got it. I decided to do a Kurdish community gathering to do a culture share. But like 4 days before my event, this wildfire came and didn't let me to do it. Still, I'm stick with, we're gonna do it next week. I'm hoping for that. So I have a very great team. They are very busy with doing demo for how doing Kurdish food, some different kind of food, and how to do a Kurdish bread in a different kind, and to show our traditional dance and sharing our culture and history. So I don't want to take a credit. I want them to share it at that event. But right now, I want just to share a quick video. It's I think it's American Girl pay a visit for my little city, which is I'm from north of Iraq, Kurdistan part. My city is Sulaimani, we call it Suli. A pretty girl pay a visit for my beautiful city, and she did a short video. She's just walking on a public street and showing some stuff. So I want just to share this video for now. Yeah, you know. Just a minute.
I hope to give you a good flavor of what Ava, and today I am in Suleimania, also known as Suli. This is the capital of culture in all of Kurdistan. A city also known as, I suppose, the bride of the cities of all of Iraq. There's a lot of culture, a lot of history here. I'm only here for like 1 day, so I can show you a little bit of the city, but I hope to give you a good flavor of what Kurdistan's, I guess, second city is like. Let's go. Locals here refer to their hometown as Suli, but that's the short, affectionate version. The city's full name is Suleimania. It's one of those vibrant cities where the streets are always clogged up with people buying, selling, and hustling. From tea houses always ready to serve up a mean chai to barbershops waiting for customers, this city is as Middle Eastern as it gets. So imagine, this gentleman just walked up to me out of nowhere and gave me some figs. How sweet is that? It was just the beginning of all that famous Kurdish hospitality. Suli is a nice city with a very cool atmosphere, but what makes it special in my eyes is how welcome you feel here as a traveler. People seem genuinely happy to welcome foreigners into their hometown anywhere you go. And just got this apple. Also, as a gift. What is going on? Suli is an interesting town. On the one hand, a modern city with a young population, and on the other, steeped in literary history, tradition, and winding souks. This bazaar is absolutely massive. It sort of winds all along the streets of Suleimania, under roofs, in the open air, changing from fruits to vegetables to nuts to meat to clothes to tech accessories. You can find everything. For my local friends, though, the most important thing about Suli is that it's the culture and literature capital of Iraqi Kurdistan. I'll tell you a funny little story. So before coming to Suli, all my friends were like, you have to come check out the city. It's all about culture and literature and music and the arts, and it's famous for its poets and writers. And then I came, and literally on the day that I arrived, we learned that UNESCO had just designated Suli as a creative city. It's one of its sort of network of creative cities with a special focus on literature. No wonder, you can feel there's like a sense of something creative, something artistic and artsy going on here, for sure. That statue just behind me, yeah, it was built quite recently here in Suli, and apparently it's dedicated to the women of Kurdistan, thanking them for their strength and determination over the last few years of crisis and tension here in the region. But there's another side to Suli that's not really known to visitors. My local friends wanted to show me something that happens kind of behind the scenes. This is not your typical bazaar, and this road sign is also a sign of things to come. There's a really cool place here in Suli that I was told about by the locals, and this is a place I had not expected to find in Iraqi Kurdistan for sure. See, this is a street food market for Indian and Nepali food. There are a lot of Nepali and Indian and Filipino workers here, and every Friday they get off, and this is when they can come here to this street and have some of their own local food from back home. This place is so cool, so cool. Let me show you around. There are tens of thousands of foreign workers in Iraqi Kurdistan, many of them working on construction sites and in local houses. It's never an easy life to be so far away in a foreign country, away from your family, so this market feels like it provides a slice of home to an entire community. Here, chefs at makeshift stalls prepare all sorts of deliciousness, from Filipino to Indonesian to Indian snacks. So here we have momos, and momos basically are dumplings that exist in a lot of cultures, but these are probably from Nepal. From Nepal. Can I have one momo, please? All right, great, thank you. Ugh, just look at that plump, juicy bite of heaven. Let's give this a shot. Super good. Wow, just like the real thing. It is the real thing. Amazing. You might think that all these flavors only attract the expat population. Well, you'd be wrong to think so. Kurdish locals come here too to find some of the most authentic food from all around Asia. I just loved being here to see a side of Kurdistan that's rarely talked about, and to see how these people connect back to their roots and share those roots with the locals through the universal language of food. And as the sun began to set over the city, it was time to move on to the night market, which only ever opens after dark. I can't promise that I won't show you more food. Obviously, one of the top things that you should do in any city at night is go and have some street food. And it's no different here in Suli, because here they actually have a street kind of place as well, which I am really looking forward to showing you around, because this place contains some yummy Middle Eastern delicacies. Yep, that was someone recognizing me from my vlogs on the streets of Suli. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, back to the night market and its food. When in the Middle East, you do not forget to try all the food. That's just what you do, okay? This sandwich apparently is called a hima in Kurdish, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Looks great. So it's basically chopped up meat. There's various different kinds, no vegetarian option, plus a lot of vegetables, cabbage, tomatoes on the inside. Let's try. Wow, that is really juicy. Amazing, so rich, just packed with all different kinds of flavors. Really nice. All right, time for dessert. Just maybe not the creepy Nutella. Let's go for something local. So I'm just about to try something special and local. It's called kunafa. Kunafa. And it's got sugar.
Sugar, flour, and little sweet, little oil, and cheese.
Okay, great. Let's go for it. Let's try one. Wait, did he say a little or a lot of sugar? I'm not even gonna ask. Wow, that is cheesy. Oh my gosh, so creamy, super sweet. You can really taste that crunchiness on the outside, super soft on the inside. Wow, delicious. This lovely gentleman then showed me all the cakes that he bakes on the side. And last but not least, on my market tour, coffee. This, by the way, is the process of making a Kurdish coffee. So it's made in these copper pots and then stirred around in hot sand to heat it up. It's a pretty unusual technique and it's really, really cool. Because if you don't drink a strong coffee at night in Kurdistan, are you really in Kurdistan? And so my short time in Suli came to an end. And my friends here threw me just the perfect goodbye. Before you sign off, just listen to Sina's song.
Thank you. So, oh, it doesn't stop? So I want to share some pictures of what we're gonna do in our event. So
just one word of warning before I start this vlog. Iraqi Kurdistan is probably not going to...
Sorry. So for our event, we're gonna do a demo for how to do a dolma in two ways. We have a grape dolma, a grape leaf dolma, and chocolate dolma. And this is chocolate dolma. And this is called nausaji. It's, I don't know in other culture what this is gonna say, but in our culture, we call nausaji. And this is called kalana. We're gonna do it there. You can see it, how we're gonna make it. Dolma again, and this is kalana. And this is the way how we are doing it. And we're gonna do a Kurdish naan. And that's a kalana, of course. So please, if you can, join us. If we couldn't do it next week, still I am stick with my event. I'm gonna do it. Not next week, next month. Not next month, anytime, still we're gonna do it. Come join me and we're gonna share our culture, talk about big Kurdistan, our religion, our traditional stuff, everything you want to see and hear. Thank you.
What are you doing?
And I really miss my city. I just finished 5 years being here in the United States. I didn't pay a visit for once. When I look at the video, I was kind of emotional. I was about crying. And I said, oh no, I am on video. Let me just keep it for later. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
Thank you so much, Shara. That looked delicious, all of that. And I'm looking forward to going to your event. Go for it.
So my event was supposed to be just about sharing food at the beginning. I was planning just to have one volunteer and order a lot of Kurdish food, everybody coming and just eating. But then when I got no food, I say I'm gonna do it like pre-packaged. When people go out, I'm gonna hand it, and they say that's not, but still we're gonna do some Kurdish like cookie we call kulicha. It's made with date, walnut, coconut, and Ahmed know what I'm talking about. And it's so delicious. Still we're gonna do this one, but we end up just sharing all culture, not like giving it to people.
Manijeh?
Yeah, we have kuluche also. I have got them and I brought them to the meeting, to our DAB meetings a few times. And it's the one that I bring is rice flour kuluche, and it's so delicious. I bought a box the other day. I wish I could share it with you guys.
Amen.
thank you, Shara, for the share. It was beautiful. Thank you. It made me so.
So I want to say thank you to Shara to sharing this video. I've been living in Suleimania almost like 3 years. And I want to mention like this video didn't show the real city, just like showing the market. It's very beautiful. I like it. There are people, like the people there, like very friendly and welcoming everybody. I like if you ask me if you will back to Iraq one day, which area or which state you want to live, I will back to Suleimania. The food there is so delicious. Like especially I think Shara, you know, like kulera baqima. I was eating that like a lot. It looked like a Kurdish pizza, but like it's very thin. It looks like Italian pizza. And the weather there like is so beautiful. It looks like Oregon. There's like a lot of trees, mountains, and a lot of like lakes and rivers. And I wish I can visit Suleimania soon. And maybe we will go with Shara one day and we will eat kulera baqima.
Inshallah. So as I said, I didn't want to share so much because I'm going to keep it for my event. But thank you so much for mentioning that, Ahmed.
Manijeh?
Sorry to take much. If there is no more question, I'm talking about my question is about the name of the city. I know Suleiman has to do with Solomon, the prophet Solomon. So can you tell me why they call the city Suleimaniye, please?
So is Tribal? Okay, so Baban Tribal, I think is a son of the Suleiman Pasha Baban. So the son, when come to the Suleimani, it's named by his father. So Suleimani it was like the capital for Baban Empire, or yeah.
So it has nothing to do with the prophet Suleiman?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shara, for sharing again. And I hope a lot of us are able to go to her event next week. We are going to move on to our liaison report, starting with Councilor Cate, who is our new City Council liaison.
Nice to see you all. That was fun. I'm starving now. I didn't eat dinner and that looks so good. Anyways, what's going on with the council? There's, of course, a lot of still staff shifting for living in this virtual world that we live in now, since we can't do things in person because of COVID. One of the things we're doing is that the parade that we usually have the beginning of September is going to be a virtual parade. I don't know if you guys were you guys hear about that and can do a clip? Oh, good. Okay. So yeah, so that's coming up. They're putting that together. A couple other things regarding COVID. We were able to put together THPRD and got about 400, I think it was, what are the numbers? 408,000, and we got 92,000 from the county to put the money together for THPRD to work on it's a goal of building mental health, and they call it, the county has a mental health and community psyche program. So we'll be putting some money to help THPRD do some outreach to people on those issues. Of course, the big things we're still moving in the direction of looking at what we want in a city manager. That's a big part of the charter update. That is that we will now have a professional manager that oversees the execution of our plans. We as council, we set policies, we make the plans, but the actual execution hiring consultants or contractors or purchasing things to clean the roads, working on water systems, all of that, the execution of all that. We have 627 employees the last time I saw, and we spend our budget's well over, it's like 365 million. So, and we don't spend that much. We spend about 200, part of it's reserves. But in any case, we'll finally have a professional manager to oversee those departments and those activities. And so we're working on having an interim person come in January, and then they'll be looking for the hiring the first city manager in probably by June. So that's coming up. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. And of course, the other issue is the big one that we're working on is trying to get our arms around what we can do to promote racial equity and justice, and looking at our police and what reforms we might want to do there. What we did is we hired a consultant, racial equity consultant, who had 4 meetings with various groups within our community, not to decide things, but to try to put a framework around what we want to talk about to do. And you were sent a copy of the report. It just came out this afternoon, so that's why you're just getting it now. If you look on page 5, it comes up with the potential strategies to accomplish desired outcomes in public safety and policing. And it's got a list of the most the items that those groups came up with. And with that, I know you have a lot to do. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And yeah, again, thank you for having me here. I'm really looking forward to spending the next few months with you.
Thank you, Councilor Cate. Do we have any questions for her at this time or comments? Oswaldo?
Thank you, Councilor Arnold. It's good to have you back at the board, and I just want to thank you for actually soliciting us to be your kind of farewell board, if you can say that, I guess. But thank you so much for your work at the City Council through these many years. It's really appreciated. I know that I don't usually participate much in City Council meetings just because some time constraints, but the other day I was actually listening to one of them, and it was very interesting. And I know that times are just not what they used to be, I guess. But thanks again. And I guess the question that I have is the intention of hiring an interim city manager? And I don't know, is it interim because we need to start January 1st? But is that person eventually going to be the city manager, or what's the purpose of or hiring someone as an interim and then waiting 6 months to probably just give her the title?
The reason for that, and you need to talk to the other counselors too to get their nuances of it, but from my perspective, the reason we're doing it is, first, yes, because that starts January 1st. So we need a city manager then. January 1st, the mayor is no longer in charge of running all the departments. So we need someone in there by then. And part of the reasons are that we have new counselors coming on board. So we wanted to allow them to have the opportunity to be part of the decision of who the city manager will be. And from my standpoint, I think we also need to get our arms around our structure, what the structure of the city is and where we may want to go with it. I personally think that it would be valuable to start having those conversations and to have the interim city manager do that deep dive at looking at how each department is structured, what they're trying to do, how do they need to interact, what are best practices in municipal management, and things like that. So that's why. And again, part of it too is we also didn't want to, well, right now, I don't, you know, with COVID, this would be a really hard time to find someone, and we want to make sure that we, you know, we have everything aligned and we can get the best person in. So trying to get someone hired in December seemed tougher than doing it in June. And again, there were the other reasons as well.
Thank you, Councilor. Arnold, can I say something? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate you mentioning the efforts towards equity. I know that Beaverton generally, in my opinion, is doing a great job in you know, just working towards equity, inclusion, and diversity. That's why we actually do exist as a board. But I really inspired just listening to you talking about the those concerted efforts towards it. But my question is, because I reviewed page 5, as you mentioned it, and I see some really tangible efforts that are very goal-oriented. I wonder though, if there is any plan to partner with community organizations in the city in implementing some of those, or what strategy the city is going to adopt in making sure that people of color or minorities in the community are at the table as you work through these issues.
Are you talking about the effort that we had going with the consultant and the first points then? We'll have a discussion, and again, I'm so glad I was able to get this to you guys before, because we're going to actually have a discussion about it tomorrow, and we'll see. In what I've said consistently, I think it would be good to form something like a task force to do that, and definitely include all those voices, because that'll be important. So we'll see what the rest of the council wants to do, but we're going forward. And again, I just wanted to say too, just a few words. As I know you guys know, racial equity, it can be a tough one. I mean, there aren't really as many simple things. You know, back in the 60s and Martin Luther King, when he was coming forward and brought so much to our country and to the world as far as a focus on this, there were things that were very blatant, right? You had to use a colored bathroom, or you weren't allowed in certain places. There were really simple things to do. And that, when I'm saying simple, I don't mean to trivialize them. They're just very clear that this is not equity. But now we still have issues. Of course, we still have them, but they're not as simple. So for instance, we keep having people come every week saying, why don't you just do 8 can't wait? It's just a no-brainer. Just adopt 8 can't wait. But it isn't that simple. For instance, one of the things, the first one is ban chokeholds and strangleholds. We haven't been teaching chokeholds and strangleholds for 20 years. They figured out long ago that they did not work. There was too much people being hurt or killed from them. It was not a good tactic. Originally, it was created to, what it was that it was called the carotid hold, and you would block off the artery going to the brain that would cause the person to faint, so that you could get them, you know, get them handcuffed or whatever if they're fighting, right? So that was the idea, that you would train to do this so that they faint, you get them under control, and you didn't go through a bunch of fighting to have it happen. Didn't work, you know, again, we had horrible things happen from it. So we don't do that anymore. But to just say you can never do a chokehold, I mean, if you're in a life or death situation, if someone's on top of you trying to choke you to death, to say, oh, well, I will be fired as a police officer if I do, you know, if I choke them, you know, again, and that's a really simplistic thing. But when you look at what police do, they'll tell you every situation is different. every situation is different. There's another thing in 8 Can't Wait that talks about, what's it called? Oh yeah, the the force of continuum. And that's like this level of, if this happens, then you can do this. If it gets worse, you do this. If it gets worse, you can do this. And it's got this force continuum. But what agencies again found is that it didn't work well. It could cause more violence. And there were even a couple of Supreme Court cases about use of violence. So most police forces have moved away. That they still do training and force, but this use of force continuum is not practiced anymore because it wasn't effective. And again, some of the reading I've said it actually led to more violence rather than less. So that's the thing that we face, and that's why we really want to do this deep dive, involve the community, and really get in front of us what we're really facing in our community, so that we can address what we're facing in our community now and hopefully make changes that will at least move us along towards better practices with our police. And hopefully I will do more than that. And one last thing to think about too, I'm also hoping we'll do is, when you look at some of what happens where things get violent with police, it's not always, but it's not uncommon for it to be around mental illness or someone who's on drugs and that kind of thing. And they tend to be amped up when they see a police officer. They already go into fear mode, and you're already amping things up. So you guys have probably heard, they also mentioned the Cahoots program. That's one in Eugene. And what that does is it involves social workers to be called into situations that involve those types of circumstances, so that they're, one, not a police officer, and two, have more of the social skills of how to talk someone down and get to a different place. So we're looking at that. But doing that, again, not fast and easy. We would need to do it probably at the county level, because it would be associated with calling 911, which is at a county function. And also just, there's other strategic things about, getting the right people. Sometimes they do need to go with police, sometimes they don't, it depends. So we have to look at that in more detail. And those are the kinds of things that we hope to look at. And again, create, a safer, calmer place where we see less violent situations.
Thank you, Councilor Arnold.
Question really quick.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll be quick. I looked it over really quick, Councilor Cate, the call to action, and I wasn't sure if I was missing anything around this, or if the report didn't necessarily address it, but it was relative to the makeup of the Beaverton Police Department so far as demographics are concerned with the population it serves. I think that the majority, everybody here realizes that there's a lack of BIPOC and female officers at the Beaverton Police Department, and that increasing the staff to reflect the community it serves would naturally work to create a force that is better equipped and capable and able to communicate with diverse communities. And so I just kind of wanted to address that if possible, but I'm also mindful of time.
Okay, I can talk just a few words about that. Yes, you're right. That is an important subject. And I don't want this to sound like, we already do it, there's nothing to it. There's more that we can do. And if we're reaching out, my hope is we can reach out to the community and find better ways to have that connect. From my mind, we've been talking about this, oh my gosh, since maybe I can't remember if we'd already started by the time I was on council. I've been on council since 2005. But we talk about it all the time. How do we get more women? How do we get more people of color? And trying to reach out in a variety of ways. And it's kind of ironic. Some of those some of the people that we find actually come through the SROs. So that's been kind of an not an interesting, but a tough thing too, is that was one way to, how do you connect with people and encourage them to join? That would be a great subject to keep working on. And another, just one quick little tidbit that's actually I found fascinating, not fascinating in a good way, but a sad way, is that it's harder for women to be police officers. We still live in a culture where they're supposed to be nice, and it's harder. We have a lot of women who become police officers, and a lot of them will move, the ones that do will move and become detectives or something else, because it's kind of difficult. At least I've heard that. And again, that's not everybody, and that's not everything, and that doesn't mean that women don't want to be police officers and we can't do more work. It's something we're working on, and if people have ideas of ways to include people, that would be great. That would really be helpful. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. One of the things that we talked about at BST relative to the SROs, just kind of in general, is also the lack of representation with the SROs. There's not a female. And, I don't want to assume anybody's identity, but looking at the profiles of the SROs, it's pretty homogenous, and it's not skewed towards, the BIPOC population. But thank you for addressing that, and we look forward to hopefully working with you to create initiatives and mechanisms and ways to improve community relations relative to recruitment, as well as maybe figuring out a way that we can hold bureaucratic organizations accountable further.
That's exactly what we want to do. So look forward to ideas coming to the table about that. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you so much for those comments and questions, and really helpful dialogue. The next two liaison reports we're going to have to probably move through pretty quickly. So Karenna, would you like to share an update on MYAB?
Sure, this won't take too long. We don't have that much yet because our first meeting is going to be next Thursday. So we haven't officially started for the year, but we've had an officers meeting to go over what we want the meetings to look like and what we want this year to look like, how much of it is going to be virtual. So we are planning at the first meeting to identify some subcommittees, and then hopefully those subcommittees will be able to accomplish some virtual events and other things that we can do for the community. And then we're also, one of our main goals this year is trying to get MYAB involved throughout the city as much as possible, whether that be more youth liaisons on other boards and commissions, volunteering at events, having booths at as many events as we can. That's the goal that we're also working on this year. So that's the gist of it. I'll have more next meeting once we've had more MYAB meetings and have identified our goals for this year.
Wonderful, thank you, Karenna, and good luck in that meeting next week. We'll move on to the Beaverton Police Department liaison report.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Neil Stelling, working with the Community Service Division for the Beaverton Police Department. I worked with Mike Smith, as you know, as Captain Smith. He went to operations. We did some restructuring in our organization. So if anybody's familiar, if he goes on the screen here, I don't think he could talk. Captain Paul Wandell is going to be the new captain over the division. I'll be the lieutenant, have been for a few months now. But as far as our update, August 20th, we did a shop with a cop at Fred Meyer. We helped out 18 families, totaling 31 kids who were able to do some shopping for school and other necessities as they moved into the school year. We moved in our new building. Everybody's probably seeing it. We're still going through some growing pains. It's going to take a little while till we're settled in, but we are fully operational at the new building at Allen and Hall. As a side note too, we did, myself, Consuelo Starr, Sergeant Kramer, and Matt Henderson, our PIO, we did go meet with the immediate businesses in the radius of the new building, passed out some information, said welcome to the neighborhood and things like that. So we are reaching out to the neighborhood. But if you know anybody who has any questions or anything of that nature, you feel free to contact me. I'll be happy to reach out and let them know what's going on with the building. It's not open. It's open to the public for as far as going in and making reports or asking questions, but it's not open to the point where we're going to be able to use any of the rooms or anything yet because of COVID. But the lobby is open, so if people need to go in there and make a report, they're certainly welcome to go in the main lobby there and go to our records window. And if you didn't know, the courts are not there. The courts are still going to be at the Griffith building. So if there's any court-related issues, folks are going to still want to go to the Griffith location. But other than that, National Night Out was moved from August to October, but because of COVID now, October is canceled as well. So we're going to call it a National Night In. So celebrate your community by celebrating inside. So National Night In, get a pizza, hang out with your family and friends. Other than that, hey, open your camera up there, Captain Wandell. Can you flip your camera on? Are you there? Want to say hi to everybody? There you go. So this is the gentleman who's with our division now. He's going to be the new Mike Smith. So Paul Wandell, everyone.
Is my volume working or no?
Not very good. You're pretty faint. So anyway, with that, does anybody have any questions for us right now? Anyone? Okay.
Looks like Oswaldo does.
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Sure.
Those events that you are having due to the COVID conditions,
yeah,
but also just everything that is happening towards unrest towards the police, have they affected the number of people that have participated compared to previous years?
Are you talking about our event specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Shop a Cop was the only event. Well, we did do Coffee with a Cop right before the shutdown in March 7th, I think we did it. So that was actually our last event, and that was good. Our Coffee with the Cops are always pretty good and informative, and we get to chat with a lot of people. But no, the Shop with a Cop, we had to change how we did things. We did it by a schedule, considering social distancing and whatnot. So we took a little bit longer and had slotted times and did all that. But other than that, we haven't had any events to really gauge that. So the short answer to your question is I don't know, because we haven't really been able to do a whole lot. That was kind of our first dip of our toe in the water since this COVID thing started, because we got to be very careful and cautious about what we do and how we do it. So I'm hoping we're constantly thinking of other things to do. We want to start doing more community academies. We were hoping to do one this fall, but again, because the restrictions keep getting pushed forward. So and as long as that's going on, we can't reasonably bring a bunch of people together and have an academy. Next year, we're going to hopefully have 3, and they're going to be smaller. We used to do 12 to 14 weeks with some other extra experiences or trips, but we're going to try to do 5 weeks. And we really want to get down to the nitty gritty about what we do and why we do it, especially when there's a lot of questions about use of force and things like that. And I think anytime people are more informed about what we do or why we do it, I think it's helpful. And again, I know sometimes people aren't always going to agree, but at least we can get this information out there, and people can ask questions. We can have a dialogue about that. So all that to say, next year, hopefully we'll have 3 of these. I also go to the HRAC meetings. So my plan is once we do that, depending on how many people we're going to have, I'm going to invite designate at least 2 slots for each HRAC and the DAB, so we can have at least 2 members from those organizations or boards and commissions to attend these community academies. So hopefully next year it's going to be a different year. We're going to be able to do all this, but again, I can't promise anything. So
thank you.
Okay.
Just a brief comment
Sure.
about the I guess state of the things as they are right now. And one of the challenges, I think Councilor Cate was talking about this and the recruitment. I think one of the problems that any police department faces right now is obviously the really bad perception that people have on their minds. And I have plenty of conversations with Captain Smith and the 3 police chief officers that have been at the head of the department in the last 6 years since I've been at DAB.
Right.
And the thing is, and I'm glad that this report actually says some things about some of the finding is that there's a lot of talk about, but not a lot of action. So I'm hoping that next year we can, because you know what? Because the thing is, you have to fix that perception one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so, and I have a few ideas, but that's more of a professional conversation than a volunteer one.
And I'll throw that out to everybody here too. There's that question about recruiting. That's the $50,000 question. So 10 years ago, I was a sergeant in the same division, and back when it was the diversity task force when that first started. So I was on that. I've been in training in professional standards. That's our which also deals with recruitment. So it's not lost on us that we want to try to meet, or represent the demographic of the community we live in. But we're always looking for ideas to do that. And clearly we don't have all the answers, and it's not for lack of wanting to or even trying, but it is a very, complicated issue. So I always reach out to anybody. If you ever have any ideas, please, I'm all ears. We're all ears. You just let us know. Because we do have to make sure everybody's fairly represented, and but Beaverton has changed. I've been here almost 23 years now. It's even changed in 23 years. So it's not the same Beaverton it was 15 years ago, and it won't be the same Beaverton 15 years from now. So we're always going to play catch up, but the more we can do as a community, I think the better off we are. So thank you for that.
Let's take one more question from Ahmed, and then I'm going to direct any other questions or comments to go into the chat.
Hi, I want to welcome you guys on board, but I have a question. Around Beaverton now, like a lot of areas, they have eviction and because wildfire. So if now today someone knocked my door, he wearing uniform, and he told me I need to leave right now.
Okay.
How can I double check? Like, is there any number I can call immediately?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I would call, well, first, if it looks like the guy's really sketchy, like maybe, it doesn't seem right, that you kind of, your sixth sense is saying, whoa, hang on a second, call 911. It's free. It doesn't cost you a thing. But if not, it's not a problem. And if it's any of our officers, I guarantee you, if you said, hey, I just want to verify this, they should certainly be no problem. In fact, they should give you the number. But if that doesn't happen, you can call the non-emergency number. It's 503. I can put it in the chat too, but 503-629-0111. And you can say, hey, look, is there some kind of evacuation order? Although I would have to double check. There's a little speculation on my part here. If something like that were to happen, it would probably be our dispatch has a capability of ringing neighborhoods basically for like mass orders and things like that, or community like an emergency alert system. You'd probably hear about some of that stuff first. I can't really think of a situation where an officer would come up and knock on your door unless the block right next to you is burning down and there's not time or something. I just don't see how that would work. But yeah, but that also goes for if you're ever in contact with the police. Hopefully, I always like nice contact, but sometimes the police talk to people for other things. So if there's questions about the veracity or the legitimacy of who they are, if they're a police officer, they shouldn't have any problem with you verifying that. And you can ask questions, call for supervisors, do things like that. So because on occasion there are people who impersonate officers. So I certainly don't want anybody to get tricked by that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that update. And there are a couple more questions in the chat for the two Beaverton Police Department folks. So
okay.
If you could take a look at those.
I'll take a look. And then,
respond.
Okay, go ahead. And then my email. So if anybody's corresponded with Captain Smith, you can get a hold of myself or Captain Paul Wandell the same way. It's our first letter or name. So in my case, it'd be N as in Nora, Stellingworth@beavertonoregon.gov. We all have the same email. So if you need to get a hold of any of us, that's how you can do it. Or you can just call the police department and say, hey, I want to talk to one of those fellows in the community service division, and you'll be able to get a hold of us. Okay. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In the essence of time, I'm gonna go pretty quickly through the Voters Forum segment on the agenda. A little bit of an update on that. So the Voters Forum is scheduled for October 14th, 7 to 9 p.m. It is going to be 100% virtual. And it will also be taped for future broadcast on YouTube and TVC TV. What they're looking for, well, first of all, they have selected the candidates that they're inviting to be a part of the forum. It will cover the mayoral race, the city council seat, the new one, and Washington County Commissioner position. And what they are looking for from us right now are questions for the candidates, and whichever question or questions that are selected from our board will actually be referenced as specifically coming from the Diversity Advisory Board when the question is read, and or we may have the opportunity to record our question if there's a representative from DAB who would like to do that for the event. So I guess my ask for right now of everyone is to please compile or compose a question or questions that you would like to be asked of the candidates who will be part of the Voters Forum. And again, those three races that will be a part of that forum are the mayoral race, the city council seat, and the Washington County Commissioner seat. I'm thinking, feel free to post any questions you may have on your mind right now in the chat. Otherwise, I would ask that you maybe email those questions to myself or Alexis. Any questions or comments about any of that?
Rachel, I was just going to ask, did you have a deadline by which you'd like those questions?
Yes. I think they need them by the beginning of October. So let's say next Friday. All right. We'll move along to recruitment for our board. Alexis is going to lead this portion, talking about our current member terms and also looking to brainstorm how we can support other recruiting efforts for this year.
Sure, thanks, Rachel. So as you all hopefully know by now, we're in fall recruitment. As with everything else in life right now, it is a different year, a challenging year, a year in which we are more concerned than even on an average basis that we're going to get enough applicants and the right applicants for the DAB. And so just wanted to say a couple things about what's happening and what opportunities there are. And then really I was just hoping we could have a conversation. People could throw out some ideas about how you all can help support recruitment, or other ideas that you have in the remaining time that we have. But really, I think the biggest message is as always, we need you and your networks as well to bring new people in. And I think Oswaldo's point is really salient as well in this. We need people for DAB. We also need people for other boards, right? So if you happen to be in the position where you're transitioning off a board, but you can imagine having some more energy to continue to give, and you don't want to reapply for DAB, but you consider reapplying for another board, that would also be a real success and a real win for the city and for the work that everyone's doing. So just in terms of the neighborhood office, what they have done around fall recruitment, you probably, if you live in Beaverton, you've probably received postcard in the mail. You maybe seen your photo on the postcard and on the materials. There was some, a nice photo or two that was used that featured some DAB members at the night markets a couple of years ago, I think, or last year. And definitely articles in New York City and in a couple different places. Certainly some social media campaigning and digital ads that have happened. Some of the in-person or virtual things, but live. Each one of the boards that has a meeting in September has been having that little mini open house that we had at the beginning this time. So thank you all for those of you who spoke up and shared some. And I think that's the vibe of all of these opportunities and the conversations that we want you all to have, as well as just sharing, you know, the best thing that people can hear in terms of motivation and inspiration to do this work is just what your experience has been and what motivates you to be on a board or commission. And so please don't feel like you haven't been serving long enough or you don't have the right words or whatever it is. It's really just your experience and what draws you that's going to motivate somebody else more than the logistical details, which we share in abundance. So there are also, Francisca in the neighborhood office has set up some some sort of like open office hours happening on Wednesdays throughout this month. So the DAB was invited to participate in that with other boards, and you all have been great about that. Monica participated in the first couple this month. Manijeh is signed up for not this week, but next week, and Yogana is signed up for the last week of the month. That doesn't mean that more people couldn't come, so please, if you are available on a Wednesday from 3 to 4 in September, there's a Zoom meeting set up so that people can just drop in and ask questions and learn more about the board. So that said, the DAB does not have anybody to do that this Wednesday, so there's no representation in 2 days on the 16th. So if anybody's available for that, please sign on or let me know if you don't have the information. We can share that again. And then one really important piece too is, right, there's some of you whose terms are ending at the end of December this year. So it could be that you've been on the board for a while and your 3-year term is up, or you were an alternate and you were appointed just for a 1-year term. In either case, if you wish to continue with the board, if you wish to be considered to continue with DAB, it's really, really important that you must fill out an application before October 1st, just like everybody else, so that we can get your name in the mix for appointments for starting in January. So thank you to, I think there's at least one board member who has expiring terms who I've seen their application come in, so thank you for that. Great to see. And the rest of you who have expiring terms, just to be really explicit about it, Caroline, Oswaldo, Cynthia, Dahlia, Rehana, and Dennis are the ones who have terms expiring in the end of December. That said, if you are one of those people, if you are anyone on the board who is, for whatever reason, not planning on continuing your service with DAB, if you can let me know as soon as possible, just because that helps inform the fall recruitment process. So when we're doing interviews and there's always this magic question of how many openings are there? Well, it's actually like a more complicated question because some people are transitioning off, some people want to continue, some slots are completely open because we've lost somebody during the year or whatever. Not this year, but most years. So just let me know if you can, what your status is, if you intend to transition off or you are going to expire at the end of the year, so that your term is going to expire at the end of the year, so that we can plan for how many people we're trying to bring in the door starting January. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. And then I just wanted to open it up for if anybody has ideas or thoughts for yourselves or for other folks that you're planning on doing to help recruit outside of these kind of official channels. You know, think about your friends and family and neighbors and people that you know that you could help invite into this space, or maybe it's somebody that did that for you. So any thoughts or comments or ideas? Go ahead, Teresa.
So I just want to say, if you are planning on leaving the board, please tell us. Don't just like ghost us like a bad date, okay? Tell us, that way we can at least have a chance to say goodbye. You maybe even send you a nice little quarantine gift or something, because we've all been around each other. We've all been going through these crazy life events together and checking in with each other once a month Brandon, you've missed out a little bit, but don't worry, we'll inundate you with calls and emails and stuff very soon, now that we know that you're back and available to be reached. But yes, you know, please share. Yes. Okay. And for ideas, I just would like to second what Oswaldo said, because I think it's fantastic. And I saw a documentary recently on some things going on in the city of Chicago, where youth, BIPOC youth, actually walk around with police officers and do like a neighborhood tour, which is totally unrelated. But if there's like a quarantined get together, people still don't want to meet in public. I get that, but just throwing it out there, there's a park conveniently located near where I live, and you can totally, you know, get a lawn chair or sit on the grass with a blanket, and we can talk about DAB or the Housing Technical Advisory Group, which technically is not a board, committee, or commission, or, you know, just talk about how more BIPOC people can be a part of the community and get civically engaged, because gosh darn it, it's free. And, you know, when things do start back up, you get free snacks. So share that with people. If not for the civic engagement, you get a free snack or meal, and you get invited to free things, incentives. I yield my time to Oswaldo. Go Oswaldo.
Thanks, Teresa. Thank you so much. I can tell you right now, I think I made my decision at the beginning of the year that I would not continue at the DAB next year. But the main reason for that is not that I don't like you guys, because I like you all very much. I think you guys are fantastic people, fantastic leaders. And I think that's part of the reason why I think I need to move, because I think I am not the sharpest tool in the shed either. But I think if we start just doing what I said at the beginning, just looking for other boards where we can actually share our ideas, our thoughts, and bring our uniqueness to the city, then I think we're going to be helping each other in a better way, helping our communities in a better way. And so that's my goal. I haven't actually looked at which boards interest me, and the one that I actually think about is probably HVAC. And I don't even know what the makeup of HVAC is. I don't know how diverse they are. I would think, being a human, what is it? Human, what's the HVAC? Anyway,
Human
rights. I would think that they're very diverse, but that was not my experience a few years ago when I actually participated in a few meetings with them. And it got me thinking back then, you know, okay, this is a very important board and there is no diversity here. So I think that's going to be my goal. I don't know which boards I'm going to be looking at, and I'm hoping, because again, I have to apply for them. But in this report that the consultant that put together, I think they talk about some of those things too, about hiring practices and applying some live experiences against just educational titles. It's important, but I'm hoping that if I do decide to join a different board, that I am selected and I am given that opportunity to do so. So having said that, I'll be just in a different room, I guess, but I will continue to be part of the Diversity Advisory Board forever.
We can write a recommendation for you, so maybe they will accept you.
Very much appreciated.
You're so welcome.
thoughts or ideas from anyone else, or things that you are doing already to try to encourage other folks to come forward and participate in this way? Go ahead, Manijeh.
I don't want Oswaldo to leave. who is going to ask all wonderful questions, and also I really want his wisdom at the table. Please don't let him go. Don't go.
I just recruited my daughter.
Yeah, but you need to be there at least for the first time she's here.
He can be a visitor.
Again, I think, you know, as much, I love the DAB. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Like I said earlier, it's giving me a voice. And I think the work that we're doing is very important. And just hearing that we are always at the top of the list when they're looking for something. But again, we talk a lot about the tokenizing problem, and sometimes it could be seen as that. So let's not allow ourselves to do that to ourselves. So yes, love the DAP, but love it as a stepping stone to something bigger, because that's what we can do when we unite our forces, our ideas. Because an idea is really a bad idea unless it is executed. And that's what we need to do. We need to execute these ideas. We need to move forward. Look, again, could just continue to love the Diversity Advisory Board, but let's go for more.
Rachel.
Alexis, is there a way for us to, or for you to provide information about some of the, maybe the largest lack of representation that we have on our board right now for communities in Beaverton?
Yeah, sure. We do have, thankfully, several years ago, we started collecting demographic data about the boards. So we have about almost all of the boards. We still need to work on getting our youth boards on that track. But we have demographic information. As I put in the chat, there will be some of that information contained in the DEI plan report from this year, but I probably won't take up the space to write all of the 16 boards and what their composition is, but we have that. So I'm happy to share that with people. I believe we have, I think we have gender and race. I think those are the two pieces of information. There might be one more demographically, but I can certainly pull that and share that with folks as of, you know, right now, point in time. So I'll put that on my list for a follow-up email. All right, well, I will just say, if you, please do also, if you can, think about social media, either reposting or sharing this information that way. October 1st is the deadline for this year for terms starting next year. Applications are open all year long. People can apply at any time, but really the fall push is when we do the main thrust of it. So. And as you all know, it's helpful to be there in the beginning of the year for the retreat and all of the relationship building and things like that. So I personally, as a liaison, don't like to bring people on mid-year unless there's a real need. So now's the time, a couple more weeks. So thanks very much for talking about that. Rihanna, did you have something? And then Shara?
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, is there a minimum number of people you need for the board to move forward? On the board?
Well, most boards are made up of, there's a few variations, but most boards are made up of 13 regular members. And then in DAB's case, we have 3 alternate members. And in order to pass anything and do regular business, you need a quorum. So you need at least 7 people on the board. The DAB has never dropped down nearly that far, but definitely the alternate spots have helped a lot with that for this board. Some of the other boards that are smaller, like the Social Service Funding Committee, only has maybe 5 or 6 people on it, 6 people, I think. So that gets a little bit harder with quorum and if people are out of town or gone or something. But for most boards, it's, yeah, it would be like 7.
Okay, thank you.
Shara, did you have something?
Yeah, so for social media, when you're posting in social media, not everybody can see it. What I'm doing is sometimes I'm just sending it in message to everyone I know in the area. So that's what more. And I was planning, I shared with you in my event, someone from DAB or city come and talk to people because it's gonna be in person and public is gonna be there from diverse communities. So that's a good idea, but if my event didn't work, so still we're gonna do some flyer, going to some places. But my question is, let's say if I bring 2 more Kurdish people, and I'm Kurdish already in a DAB, do I have to just step back to let the new people come in? Because, you know, all the time we need new people with new ideas. So how's it gonna work?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, there certainly are no, even on DAB where we, you know, are very intentional about trying to have a diverse representation. There are no quotas or anything like that in terms of folks from different places or even different, you know, different backgrounds of any sort. So really, you know, the people who get selected from year to year, it's really about the candidate pool. You know, it's also about the needs of the board. If we were to have tons of applicants, you know, where do we see gaps? But there's so much more to it, I would say, than that one specific factor. And oftentimes we don't, you know, I'm concerned this year that we will get enough applicants. And so really it will be a matter of who is a strong candidate. We won't recommend to appoint people if there's red flags or it seems like they're not a strong candidate for the board. But otherwise, you know, we will pick folks that seem passionate and well suited for the board, regardless of those other factors. But yeah, it's a good question. We would love to have more people from the Kurdish community. And thank you for your work on that through the event and through the night market and through the work you're talking about now. All right. Should we go ahead and move on, Rachel? So I think I have at least the beginning of this next item as well. Jody, hopefully, if she had to pop off for a second, but might be back, we'll see, was going to share this with me. We just wanted to have a space to do some debriefing about the virtual night markets. So I was going to share a few statistics and some of the feedback that we got from some surveys and things that we did with participants and vendors, people who watch the show, etc. Oh, good. I think Jody's back. Great. So I will start out, share a few things. Jody will share a few things, and then we'll just open it up and would love to hear your feedback for those of you who either supported or participated in some way or were just viewers on that night. Pretty inspiring and different way to do this event this year. So I'll just say with a couple of different, and I have a report I can send you all. It just felt like a lot of information for tonight, so I didn't send it. So I'll just kind of skim through some of the highlights. The Beaverton virtual night markets were held on August 14th and 15th, Friday and Saturday. A couple weeks ago or a year ago, whichever it was. Time is weird lately, right? But mid-August, and they were streamed on YouTube and also TVC-TV channels. We had an amazing lineup of 18 vendors and 6 performers, as well as, and broken down within a mix of content being filmed live at the city, and then also some of it in some really high quality documentary style clips that were filmed before the event with several of our vendors. So we got the opportunity, really fortunate opportunity, to work with a new addition to the team this year, in addition to the fabulous team that is usually part of it. So Jordan Theory, who's a local filmmaker, helped do the directing and producing and did those clips ahead of time and the live show that day. Major shout out to our hosts for the night. So Oswaldo and Anusha were our Friday night rockstar hosts for the live event, and then we had Rehana and Ahmed who were our hosts for Saturday night. All of them brought their own style and their own tone, and got tons of compliments from our TV producer folks from TBC and all of us that were just really impressed by their authenticity and just sort of natural persona on stage when all of this stuff was going on amid COVID guidelines and trying to shuffle people in and out and basically produce a TV show, which is something that majority of us had never done before. And so I'll just say that when we look at one of the really beautiful parts of being able to do this in a filmed way, there's a lot of sad parts, right? But one of the beautiful parts of doing this in a filmed way is that we now have the content for eternity. We have, and currently up online is the full Friday and Saturday night shows, but we also have, and will soon have accessible on YouTube, the individual clips of different vendors and performers. So you can go on and watch one or a couple, or whichever ones are most interesting to you. But in terms of our stats for Friday nights viewing, we had a bunch of folks that tuned in live and participated in a live chat, and then we had a bunch of people that tuned in right afterwards or since then. So Friday night has been seen by about 1,100 people, a little bit over 1,100 people in English, and 150 people in Spanish because we had simultaneous interpretation going on. Saturday night, another 500 plus people in English and another 60 people in Spanish or so, and that's so far. So there's a lot of, or that was taken after the event. So there's a lot more folks, I'm sure, that have seen it since then or will see it after that. We sold craft kits this year. We sold 54 craft kits. Some of you bought them as well as your friends and family. So I hope you enjoyed those. That was a really fun, just extra piece in order to be able to offer some sort of sales to vendors. We also offered honorariums to everybody that participated in the event. So they were able to have some financial reimbursement for, recognition for their participation in the event. But also the sale of those craft kits, I think, was a really fabulous addition. We wish we could have sold more, but we're new to all of these pieces. And then I'll just share a couple of responses from our attendee survey. Interestingly enough, 80% of the people, so this is a little bit flipped from usual years. About 80% of the people had been to a night market before and tuned in to be with us. A lot of times on the survey in person, we end up getting kind of the opposite, where we have a bunch of new people that have come out. So this time it really felt like people were gathering because they loved this event and missed this event, and they were there with us and really active in the chat, and they felt really connected to it. Let's see, we had 67% of people were watching from Washington County, 13% from Multnomah County, and 20% from out of the country that filled out the survey. Sorry, not all viewers, but there were several people, there were, a dozen people at least that sort of signed in at some point and said, I'm watching from out of the country or out of the area. So that was really special to have people that could watch from a different place. Some folks said about their favorite aspect of the event, getting to meet the diverse group of participants with their individual culture and their pride in their traditions and heritage, their love for the community and the acceptance they feel in the city of Beaverton. I also loved the commonality of hope and aspirations each of these individuals had, and the promise of how they can each contribute to make this a cohesive and diverse and richer community. One of the pieces that was so beautiful about doing this as well is that we could go deeper on the stories and the behind the folks who participated, and so that was reflected in these comments. Somebody else said, I love the variety of who was featured and being able to ask questions live. There were some challenges with audio on the first night, so some folks commented about that. And just a lot of thanks for being able to do this type of thing during the pandemic, and being able to create something really, really beautiful that lasts on. So a lot of good feedback from folks, and I want to turn it over to Jody to say a few things about the participant survey. So from vendors and performers. And would you like
Sure.
to share screen, Jody?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm having unstable internet today, so I'm not sure if this is going to work out okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm having a problem with my computer. I can't get to where I can navigate any of this. And this is an internet issue. My computer is the worst. Give me just one sec. Can you stop the share screen, Alexis? I'll just talk through it. Thank you. So we had 18 vendor participants and 6 performer participants, and out of those we shared a survey after the night market was over. It was more qualitative than quantitative, although there is some quantitative questions around how they experience different elements of the market, particularly information communication, promotion, variety and support, and overwhelmingly, so first of all, we had almost all of our vendor and performers participate in the survey. They were very interested in sharing their feedback, and overwhelmingly everybody was gave every part of this event a thumbs up. The pieces that they felt most positive about in the comments were around the support that they received and the dignity that they felt in participating in such a high quality event. A bunch of the vendors have participated in other virtual marketplaces or panels in the COVID time, and they said far and beyond Beaverton, virtual night market blew the quality out of the water, which is something that they felt really they felt like it was a dignified event that was worthy of, you know, their participation. They felt really positive about it, and the planning was great. In the comments, I'm sorry, I'm so disorganized. A bunch of stuff just came out of my house. One of the areas for opportunity was, of course, marketing and promotion. It felt some of the comments were around they weren't sure the word got out enough, and that there weren't maybe enough viewers, and they would have liked to have a little bit more opportunity to participate in some of that marketing. Let me see. I'm going to read some of the comments. Participation opinions. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about this. You know, I don't really think I have much more to share about the participant surveys. Everybody overwhelmingly loved participating. They wish they could have done it live, of course, but in these times they were happy to have participated in any way, particularly this you know, high class, high quality event that was produced, and they loved having the opportunity to have a video afterwards that they can share. Another piece of the comment that came out loud and clear was that they would have liked to have more sales opportunities, particularly with food. And I think that's all I got. Sorry for my rambling.
That's okay. Thanks for giving us some highlights, Jody. So just wanted to open it up for people to share a little bit about what their experience with the night market was. And please know that even though we were sharing a lot of positive things, there were also a lot of things that were really unfortunate that we missed this year. So those are welcome too. Whatever you have to share about your experience that will help inform both kind of our wrap up of this year and potentially what happens next year. So just open it up. Go ahead, Manijeh.
I absolutely loved both nights. Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. And I'm so happy that we decided to continue our mission and do this year, even though, I mean, despite all the problems, and you guys, I mean, did great. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Cynthia, was that a raised hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw the thought out there that maybe the reach was bigger than what we think, because I know in my house, like a third of us were participating online. The others were too busy watching to comment on YouTube. So I suspect that the reach is bigger than we think. And great job.
Go ahead, Oswaldo.
Just to add on to what Cynthia said, and I think I mentioned this during the night of our event, was that the fact that you have just one impression from one screen doesn't mean that that was just one person watching that screen. That screen could have been shared with another 2, 3, 4 people. So that's another thing to have into consideration.
Rehana, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was. So I really like the format of the event, the virtual event, but I think, you know, if COVID continues, you know, hopefully it won't, but I'm just thinking if we're in a situation like this next year, I would really like to see like a walkthrough type of event where, you know, because people like that touchy-feely experience, you know, they like the sights and sounds, and they like the, you know, all that, the thing about a Beaverton, a night market event. So one of the ideas I had was maybe like a walkthrough event where, you know, you minimize the number of people that are in that hall at the same time, but while, you know, still maintain social distancing, but they get the opportunity to buy the goods, and then also you get the sales for the vendors, you know, rather than having pre-crafted. But maybe the vendors will be more satisfied if they get more sales, because I felt bad for the vendors that they didn't have that many sales. You know, their products were pitched, but that wasn't reflective of what they were looking for, I believe, in the sales type of area. That's what my concern was, you know, just feeling bad for the vendors in that way. Even though they did really well with pitching their business and, you know, the background, and all the vendors were wonderful, you know, the performers, the vendors, especially what's his name, Bangrag Man, Prashant, DJ Prashant. Everyone was moving with him, so it was great.
Thanks for proposing an alternative for next year. Also to think about that, I think we do have to, at some point relatively soon, right, think about if we are still in this reality next year, or some version of this reality, you know, what would we do? So we can hope otherwise, but what do you all think about that question?
I think that if that's the case, then we need to learn from what we did this year, and one of the things that we can improve on is doing some sort of a follow-up with the vendors, because ultimately this is about them and giving them an opportunity to grow their business or start a business if that's the case. And I think it's what we do with that information that we get, or you know, that the media capacity that we have, to them continue to promote those businesses through social media and saying, you know, this is who you saw during the night market or virtual night market. Hopefully that will be the case, but if it is, then it's using that information to continue to promote these things.
Yeah, Rachel?
Speaking of which, are there plans for there to be another winter pop-up night market this year, or is that canceled because of COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not heard recent plans. The last time we talked about it, the thought was to perhaps postpone to next spring, but that was quite a while ago now, so I'm not sure, but I will ask. All right, well, thank you all for spending a little time looking back, remembering, sharing some thoughts. If you have others, let me know. I do just want to say, I know we had it on the list to have one more subcommittee meeting so that we could do some more debriefing. So I'll just connect with you all about what and how you want to do with that idea to create some follow-up steps. There's always a larger conversation around the long-term future of the night market, and I think that's part of that conversation too. But I will connect with subcommittee members about kind of closing this piece, and let me know if you have anything else you want to share. Thanks.
Thank you, Alexis and Jody, for sharing some of those some of the quantitative and qualitative information and feedback from the night market. Manijeh, did you have another comment?
I was wondering if we're going to have a virtual party for our successful Beaverton night market with our community, I mean subcommittee members. I love to have that, even though I mean virtual, I like it.
I have a proposal. Let's go to Shara event and celebrate there.
Oh,
You're already invited.
Perfect. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so let's just take a couple minutes here before staff liaison announcements. Is there anything that anybody wanted to say, any updates that you have, anything that Oswaldo, or I think it's Oswaldo and Teresa who were on the community conversation? Okay, cool. About those conversations that were happening with the city consultant. But really, this is open to anybody right now.
You want me to say something about that?
If you would like to.
Yeah, I think it was just very useful. I had some concerns at the beginning because, like everything, you know, is this something just to, hey, let's do this and, you know, let's look really cool and whatever. But I'm impressed with the work that she did. I think if you have an opportunity to read that report, the one that was sent to us via email, please do it, because you'll find it that there are some really good things there to take into consideration and to use for the work that we will continue to do in years to come. So I would encourage you all to take a look at it and read it, because it's a good piece of work.
Any community updates from anybody? All right, we will move on to staff liaison announcements. Sorry, Teresa, about your Wi-Fi issues. Maybe you can say a few things at our next meeting if you have things you want to add on to what Oswaldo just said. So go for it, Alexis.
I will be brief. Most of what is in the staff announcements we've already talked about tonight. So please take a quick browse through that, but most of it is there. We've mentioned already. The two things I'll say is just another reminder that it is Welcoming Week. It started on Saturday with a great kickoff with our partners at the Immigrant Story, with a storytelling showcase, which was really incredible. We have events almost every day. And just as a little preview, tomorrow we have a Polynesian dance event where you get to learn how to dance and interact directly with an instructor. We have an Ethiopian cooking demo and conversation with a chef, also produced by our friend Jordan, but she is there live as well, interacting with folks. We have an immigrant entrepreneurs event with the Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon. So that's just one slice for tomorrow. So I encourage you to please tune in and let other folks know. We're competing with a lot of other news and virtual time lately. So definitely concerned that our partners, that we want them to get engagement, and we want the week to get engagement. So just wanted to tell you that we are having those two in-person events. One is the one that Shara has been talking about. The second one is the Travel to Peru event on Saturday. I just wanted to say we have some pretty strict COVID protocols in place. Councilor Arnold mentioned the community psyche grants that the county gave out. These events are in part funded by those grants. And so the idea is, so I know it sounds a little bit like, oh my gosh, we're doing in-person events, but they're actually very intentional and very carefully structured events, much to the chagrin of our organizers that want to serve you all food. But we're trying to make it a touch-free event. It's open air under large tents, and masks required and distancing and all of that. But really, to be able to come and have a cultural showcase, an exhibition. So please come out if you can, and if the smoke goes away. And then the second thing is just as a little heads up that next month we will be focusing on the DEI plan report and progress ratings. We used to do that at the end of the year, but as the new plan came into place, we heard that for staff that it made a lot more sense to do that on a fiscal year basis in terms of the reporting. And I thought it also made sense for the DAB for us to do a little bit of an earlier piece, so it doesn't have to be all the way in December. So next month, ahead of next month, I plan to share with you a roll-up of the city's work on the new, in the first year, or a little bit less than a year, on the new DEI plan. And then we will have an exercise where you all get to give the city progress ratings in those 6 areas. So more details to come, but I just wanted you to know that that should be coming up next month. And the rest we have gone over, so that'll be it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alexis. It is just about time to conclude our meeting. 3 action items to take with you tonight, just so you don't forget, because we've covered a ton of stuff. 1, go to Shara's event on September 20th, the Kurdish Community Gathering, 2 to 4, right? 2 to 4? All right. Number 2, please help with our recruitment for DAB and other boards and commissions. We only have a couple more weeks that we're taking applications, so big push on that. And 3, please send me your questions for the candidates at the voters forum. And again, I need that by next Friday. So with that, I hope you all take care, stay safe, and be well. Good night.